Imagine you're sitting at your desk, drinking your morning coffee, maybe scrolling through your phone, completely unbothered, completely relaxed, and then nothing. No warning, no earthquake alarm, no news alert. Just a sudden, invisible, catastrophic force that stops the entire planet from spinning. And in that exact moment, everything you've ever known, every building, every ocean, every mountain, every single person on this earth gets launched forward at roughly 1,000 miles per hour, because that's how fast the surface of the earth is already moving due to its rotation. And when something spinning that fast suddenly stops, the things on top of it don't stop. They keep going. They fly forward. And that means your coffee mug, your car outside, your neighbor's house, the trees in your backyard, all of it becomes a projectile moving at supersonic speed across the surface of the planet. And this isn't science fiction. This isn't a Marvel movie. This is pure Newtonian physics. The same physics that makes you lurch forward when a car brakes suddenly. Except instead of going from 60 to 0, we're going from 1,000 miles per hour to 0 instantly. And the result is so catastrophically violent that it makes every natural disaster in recorded human history look like a minor inconvenience. Now, before you say, okay, but Earth would never actually stop spinning, you're right. It won't. Not in our lifetime, not in a million lifetimes. But scientists and physicists have actually modeled what would happen if it did, and the answers are so insane, so layered, so deeply terrifying that we need to walk through every single second of it. Because understanding what Earth's rotation actually does for us is one of the most humbling realizations a human being can have. And by the end of this video, you will never take a single rotation of this planet for granted, ever again. So let's go, second by second, layer by layer, into one of the most catastrophic hypothetical scenarios physics has ever calculated. The first thing that happens the moment Earth stops, and I mean the very first microsecond, is that the atmosphere doesn't stop with it. And this is crucial, because the atmosphere is a fluid. It's not bolted to the ground, it's just sitting on top of the planet, held loosely by gravity. And when the ground beneath it suddenly halts, the atmosphere keeps moving at roughly 1,000 miles per hour at the equator, which means every person standing anywhere near the equatorial regions of Earth, Brazil, Indonesia, Kenya, Ecuador, India, gets hit by a wall of wind, moving faster than the fastest tornado ever recorded, faster than most commercial aircraft. A wind so powerful that it doesn't just knock you over. It strips the skin off your body. It tears buildings from their foundations. It sends semi-trucks spinning through the air like paper cups. And this atmospheric shockwave radiates outward from the equator toward the poles, weakening slightly as it goes, but still reaching speeds of several hundred miles per hour even at mid-latitudes, meaning cities like New York, London, Tokyo, and Los Angeles are hit with winds that would completely level every structure ever built by human civilization. And this happens in the first few seconds, before most people even have time to process that something is wrong. But the wind is just the beginning, because simultaneously, the oceans are doing the exact same thing. They're not stopping either, and the world's oceans are carrying enormous amounts of kinetic energy from Earth's rotation, and when the ground beneath them stops, they keep moving, sloshing forward in what scientists call a mega-tsunami. Except calling it a tsunami almost undersells it, because the most destructive tsunamis in history, like the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, involved water walls of 100 feet. And what we're talking about here would involve walls of water hundreds to potentially thousands of feet high, crashing over every coastline on Earth simultaneously, swallowing entire countries, submerging entire mountain ranges near coastline. And the water wouldn't just wash over and recede, it would relocate, permanently pooling in new areas, based on the new gravitational distribution of the now stationary planet. And this is where the physics gets even more mind-bending, because Earth's rotation isn't just about movement, it's actually responsible for the shape of the planet itself. Here's something most people don't know. Earth is not a perfect sphere. It's an oblate spheroid, which means it's slightly squished at the poles and bulges at the equator. And the reason for that equatorial bulge, a bulge that adds about 13 miles of extra radius at the equator compared to the poles, is entirely because of centrifugal force from Earth's rotation. And the moment Earth stops spinning, that centrifugal force disappears. And over geological timescales, the planet would want to reshape itself into a more perfect sphere, pulling that equatorial bulge back inward. And while this wouldn't happen instantly, the gravitational redistribution would begin immediately, triggering massive earthquakes and volcanic activity across the entire planet as the crust adjusts to new stress patterns. And we're not talking about 7.0 or even 9.0 magnitude earthquakes. We're talking about seismic events that dwarf anything in the geological record, cracking tectonic plates, opening new rifts, triggering supervolcano eruptions that would send ash clouds into the upper atmosphere and block sunlight for years. And all of this from 5 seconds of stillness. Now let's talk about something that almost nobody considers when they think about Earth's rotation. The magnetic field. Earth's magnetic field, the invisible force field that protects every living thing on this planet from the constant bombardment of solar radiation and cosmic rays, exists because of the rotation of the planet. The magnetic field is generated by the movement of molten iron in Earth's outer core, and that movement is driven in large part by the Coriolis effect, created by Earth's spinning. And if Earth stops spinning, the dynamics of that molten core are disrupted. And while the magnetic field wouldn't vanish in 5 seconds, it would take much longer to fully collapse. The disruption to the core's convection patterns would begin immediately. And if the spinning stopped permanently, within hundreds to thousands of years, Earth's magnetic field would weaken and eventually disappear, leaving the surface exposed to solar wind, which would slowly strip away the atmosphere, the way it stripped away Mars's atmosphere billions of years ago, turning Earth into a cold, airless, radiation-blasted rock. And this is the long game, the quiet apocalypse that begins with 5 silent seconds and ends with a dead world. But let's come back to the immediate aftermath, because we haven't even talked about what happens to time itself. Not in a philosophical sense, but in a deeply practical one. Because right now, one day equals one rotation of Earth, roughly 24 hours. And if Earth stopped spinning, a day would no longer be 24 hours. It would be 1 year, because a non-rotating Earth would still orbit the sun, and one side of the planet would face the sun for 6 months straight, while the other side sat in total darkness for 6 months straight. And the side facing the sun would experience temperatures climbing to 200 degrees Fahrenheit or higher, hot enough to boil water, hot enough to kill every living thing, while the dark side would plunge to negative 200 degrees Fahrenheit, colder than Antarctica in winter, colder than the surface of Mars. And the thin band of twilight between the two hemispheres, the narrow strip where conditions might theoretically be survivable, would be subject to constant, violent winds, as the extreme temperature differential between the scorching day side and the frozen night side creates a permanent atmospheric pressure gradient, driving 300 to 400 mile per hour winds across that twilight zone. And so even the one sliver of Earth that might technically have a survivable temperature would be a howling, unlivable wind tunnel. And here's the thing that brings all of this together into one overwhelming conclusion. Every single disaster we just described, the 1,000 miles per hour winds, the mega-tsunamis, the supervolcanic eruptions, the magnetic field disruption, the 6-month day-night cycle, the atmospheric stripping, all of it, every last catastrophe was set in motion by 5 seconds of stillness. 5 seconds, where the planet simply stopped doing what it has been doing for 4.5 billion years without a single pause. And the reason this matters, the reason physicists actually model these scenarios, isn't to scare you, although it absolutely should, but because it forces us to recognize something profound about the world we live in, the stability we experience every single day, the blue sky, the mild weather, the liquid oceans, the breathable atmosphere, the protection from solar radiation, the 24-hour day. None of it is guaranteed. None of it is permanent. All of it depends on a rotating planet that happens to be spinning at exactly the right speed, in exactly the right direction, maintained by physical forces that have been in perfect balance since before the first single-celled organism ever appeared in the primordial ocean. And when you realize that, when you truly sit with the fact that every sunrise and every sunset is Earth keeping a promise it has kept for billions of years, it changes the way you see the world. Because you're not just watching a planet rotate, you're watching the only reason you're alive, still working, still spinning, still holding everything together. And maybe that's worth a moment of appreciation the next time the sun comes up.